Hello, everyone. I'm Marlene Foster with Empower the Vision, and I am here today with two of last week's spotlight guests. And today we're going to do a workshop for you. And the workshop will actually discuss about protection, a protection for family, protection for our employees, and also I believe we're going to even maybe touch on leadership today. But I've got with me Aneesa, and Aneesa going to talk to you. Listen, I'm not going to even try to ground everything that she'll be saying, but inclusivity, she's going to talk about that, and she will be talking about empathy. And I know you've been hearing a lot about empathy. So, and next, following will be Shaheda, and she's going to talk about mental fitness. She's going to talk to us a great deal about that, and I'm looking forward to hearing from her. And lastly, I'll be talking to you about family protection and employee protection. So just look, grab a seat, get a pen and paper, and get ready. And I'd like to first have Aneesa to come to the stage. Thank you, Aneesa. Welcome.
Thank you, Marlene. It's such a pleasure to be here with you again and with Shaheda. I'm certainly looking forward to today's dialogue. It's always a sensitive subject, I think, when we talk inclusivity and transparency and leading with empathy and compassion. And it's difficult because what most leaders of organizations are concerned about is shareholder value and making shareholders happy, right? That's priority one. And we talk about people, profit, and planet, and it's not in any particular order, but what tends to happen is the profit takes priority. And we then find employees not sure what is their role. How do they contribute meaningfully in that environment? They may have what is referred to as the KPIs, the key performance indicators, and yet those feel very much like I've got a target to reach, it's a task I need to achieve. But if there was inclusiveness around a co creation of what is the vision and the mission of the organization and bringing everyone into that environment. And I know it's pretty tough, it's not always easy because at the top level, the senior executives are the ones to decide what that needs to be. What I can personally say from my own experience, having traversed the corporate world for, well, let's say I'm 44 years young. I think I was in corporate for about 41, well, I lied, 20, over 20 years, about 27 years. And when I was in that space, I always felt small. I always felt like I don't belong. I didn't know whether I fit or not. I would be invited into boardrooms, and then the moment you speak up, you would be told to sort of take a pause, and then that creates the environment for not wanting to talk again or speak up again. And then I was exposed to what is referred to the alpha female leader. And in those environments, it gets pretty interesting. The very same female thinks that she needs to be so aggressive in her approach. She thinks she needs to be leveling the playing field with her male counterpart in that environment. And yet, what she's doing is creating a threat response within the teams that report into her. So there's no safety, there's no feeling of like I belong, or there's no inclusiveness. And then the transparency factor is impacted. So, what I'd like to share with the audience today is a bit of the neuroscience behind it. If you think about how our brains are designed, and I think I spoke briefly on this from our last conversation, the reality is we scan the environment for stimuli, for potential threats, right? And so the brain is only doing what it's meant to do. It's a survival organ to keep us in survival. Our reality is if we are in that fight, flight, freeze fawn constantly, leaders need to create a culture, an environment where people feel like they can connect meaningfully. They need to create part of the brain that it's the dopamine and serotonin parts of the brain that creates buy-in in the culture, inclusivity and equity within that culture. But yet there's competing with the alpha females that is sitting at the in the within the board in that organization, and they have the seat at the table and they have a voice at the table, but they want an even louder voice. I see there's some feedback from David Hansen. Yes, leadership sets the tone for the culture. Absolutely, David. I love that. And as we know, culture eats strategy for breakfast, as Peter Drucker says. If we don't get our culture right, if there's not a sense of belonging within that environment, you're going to have people that are literally, excuse it, but they are bums in seats. They are
Mhm.
not inspired. They don't feel like they want to collaborate. They're not going to show that they're curious because the environment is not conducive, creating the safe space for people to feel like they can share. So what do? They come instead and they show up with mask. They show up in this archetypal roles.
Mhm.
And the reality is, you're not going to get an authentic person sharing honestly what it is they can bring. So we miss out on what those potential talents are that we could hone in on those skill sets. And then we lose and we have high attrition rates within in our environments, in our work environments, simply because people weren't really sure how they fit within that environment. So I mean, I'm very passionate about this conversation, and I like to raise some of the provocative things that comes to the fold with when leaders are actually not leading. They are managing. They're managing people as if they a project. And that's such a huge disconnect. You're
Mhm.
not going to get people wanting to follow you and listen and be inspired by you as a leader if you're not creating that safe space for them to feel like what they're contributing is meaningful. So I'm going to ask my fellow panel, Shaheda or Marlene, if they've got anything they'd like to add there.
But I would, but just sitting here, and you and I spoke previously about this, and that was being part of the various companies that I've worked for, the companies that actually inspired me to leave and start a business were the ones that competence. I learned that competence wasn't just the only thing. That's not the only mark, because I was competent, but there I was mainly in a room primarily filled with males, and
Mhm.
it very seldom was I ever really given a voice or given the floor. And so I do understand that. And that's why it's so important with with leadership, that we do. Leadership really does have to listen. You have to listen, invite people to the table and say, hey, okay, what is it that, so you can invite what? Trust. Because don't you, at least you invite trust when you
Yes.
invite them to come in, have a seat at the table, ask questions, give some innovative ideas that they might have that can really turn the business around. I mean, really turn it around. Okay, and I see David says, hopefully we will move from the command and control leadership approach to trust and inspire. Exactly,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Yes.
So, David, I
Yes.
want to talk to that, David, because that is one of the models I want to share with you. And it's a framework that was coined by David Rock, and it's called the SCARF model. And the S and the SCARF attributes is really about having status. And when you're at the same and you connect with somebody and you don't impact their status negatively, right? We are one at one level. Then the second part of the SCARF model speaks to certainty. When we can create certainty, we give people a feeling of safety and trust.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then there's autonomy. People need to feel like they have autonomy within their environments. So the
Mm-hmm.
command and control aspect of leadership need to be relinquished back to our employees. Let them feel like they're in control of running whatever it is that they're doing within their core roles. What the trust factor, trust that they know what it is, what it's expected of them. Then there's
So,
the relatedness aspect, and the scarf attributes are all interconnected. It's almost the threat and the reward aspect of it. If you trigger anything of them negatively, it would automatically do what the brain is designed to do. It's going to create the threat response. And the F in the SCARF model stands for fairness. So I love using the analogy of an actual scarf, because when some people love to wear a scarf around their neck and they feel warm and cozy and it's nice and comfortable, and others don't. They actually feel claustrophobic with anything around their neck. So I use the analogy in that context to say, are you making people feel uncomfortable? Is
uh,
there dis-ease? Is there dissonance when they're connecting with you? Are you finding common ground with them so that there is that level of certainty and their status is not impacted? Right? Because people want meaningful connection. That is what if you look at Maslow's hierarchy theory, the most bottom part is, it's survival. But what is more important is to be able to connect meaningfully. It's human connection. But if the transaction or the leadership or the relationship is transactional, it's cold. And if it's cold, it's coming from a place of ego. It's coming from a place of preconceived judgments. But yet, if we honor that relationship to be as one and unified, and there's mutual respect and understanding, then it's not transactional. It sets the environment to cultivate relationships that will amplify transformation with not only the individual, but within that
mm-hmm.
environment. Because everybody wants to get to a point of self actualization. But are we setting the environment? Is the environment conducive for people to work towards self actualization? Or is it only for the select few that are sitting within silos, within environments that are within companies? And what parts of that scarf model is being impacted? And then, lastly, what I would share from my perspective on leadership and again, employees and protection of employees, we
Mm-hmm.
need to look at integrating the whole person. You
Yeah.
cannot expect this person to be Shaheda showing up in this capacity when Shaheda is a wife. Shaheda has many other roles. We need to be driving a point of integration
Mm-hmm.
of that entire person. Because when I feel fully integrated into my environment, I will show up very differently. My commitment would be even it would be enhanced at a level that nobody's going to need to ask me to do anything. In fact, I would actually just go above and beyond, because it's not so much about work-life balance. How do we drive work-life integration where we're making sure diversity, equity, inclusion, transparency, and heart-based leadership is taken care of in that environment? We're connecting to people's hearts, and not only from the mind, from the ego, from the judgment, and letting them feel like they're just a number within that environment. They're a human being, and they want to feel like they are connecting meaningfully and contributing meaningfully. Or else we'll just continue the vicious cycle of attrition and people wanting to be more purposefully aligned to where they will feel inspired. So I'll leave you
Mm-hmm.
with that. You've heard enough about me for today.
But listen, well, always, Lisa, when you speak, about especially inclusivity and about, like I said, empathy and about our voice, not just sitting at the table, but having our voices heard. That I can relate to. I can
Yeah.
relate to that. It's happened to me in business. It's happened to me in business, and it has happened to me while I worked for a company. It's happened, and so I just want not only just female and or, females, but males also. We all have to feel. It's like you were saying, we're part of the team. Invite us in, and let us feel that we're part of it. That it's not just you hearing just one particular voice, but there's so much that you could be leaving behind. Think of that quiet person
Yeah.
that's sitting at the table, Aneesa, that quiet one, and the one that may be the most, empowering, has the most innovative type of energy ever. And you never know, you never invite, you never hear what they have to, what they have to say or any of that. So I thank you so very much. Okay, and I wanted to just move on and speak with my last year spotlight guest, Shaheda. I really appreciate again you being here with me again. This year because I really enjoyed her talking to us about anxiety and just about mental fitness. And so she's going to talk with us today, engage us about employees and probably about leadership. But I wanted to invite you. Thank you for being here today, Shahida.
Thank you so much, Marlene, and thank you so much, Anissa. Thank you for having this space with me again. I really, really appreciate it. Two strong women, it sets the tone. I couldn't help but like nod my head like almost constantly as Anissa was talking. Um, so having experienced anxiety, making a decision,
Mhm.
realizing and acknowledging within myself that okay, enough is enough now. I cannot continue with this anxiety, understanding the effects that it was having on me. it, I feel that it was a conscious decision that I had to make in order to turn things around for myself. It's not a great place to live in, to have that anxiety in the back of your mind. And one of the things that I had experienced is when I had anxiety, is like the best way that I can describe it is that anxiety came in layers. So whatever the anxiety already was, the root, I had a root cause to my anxiety that I needed to resolve within myself. But because the anxiety was already playing there and within the work environment, especially in a position of supervisor or manager or leader, um, we have layers of anxiety coming on because of the roles that we need to play within that environment. Um, and that's when the mask can come on. And there's so many things that Anissa had said that I loved so much, especially because I'm actually experiencing these things right now in my current employment. So I'm
Mhm.
looking at things from different angles, I feel. I'm looking at things as a person who had anxiety and wanted to resolve it. What points did I come to within myself to realize, okay, something has to change. I am worthy of wanting to resolve it, do the work, whatever is necessary, find where this is coming from, take myself on a conscious journey of understanding myself, understanding my values, understanding what's important to me, in order for me to understand myself more. And then that will automatically show me my triggers. Where are my triggers coming from? um, it's such a wonderful journey to take on. I could actually really say that the anxiety and depression was a gift, because if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be where I am right now, which is a completely different person, I feel. Um, Triggers, understanding yourself. I think it needs a certain environment within ourselves where we need to be honest with ourselves, authentic, open to releasing judgments in order to grow, to be honest with ourselves, within ourselves. calling ourselves out when we know we're not being authentic, no matter which environment we're in. And I think if I come back to the topic of what does it mean for other people in order to go onto that journey? What does it? So I'd like to ask the people who are listening in, what is it costing the individual if a person is in a place of anxiety, if a person is in a place of mental health challenges, because long-term anxiety will become that mental health challenges. What cost is it? What are the costs? What are the costs within your home? If you are a breadwinner, if you are a mother or a father, what is it costing your family? What is it costing your children? What is it costing your extended family? What is it costing you? Are you showing up in your complete resilience? Are you coming up with yourself as your true power? Are you wanting to acknowledge how powerful you can be? I couldn't help but keep telling myself as I was in my prior employment, no, I'm meant for something bigger. I know that I'm meant for something more. And that is also an element of truth, I feel. So, what is it costing the individual who is suffering and experiencing mental health challenges, anxiety, depression, things like that? And what is it costing you at the workplace as well? If you're coming to work, we have a mask on. That's already going to put us into, unfortunately, in a very difficult negative space as well, where we are not, where it takes extra, how can I say, extra strength and extra willpower to put those fears aside, take that mask off, be authentic, be real, be true. I'm just going to what David says in addition to health intelligence. Yes, yes. Thank you, David, for that pointer. I think I'm going to take that point and touch on some of the things that helped me, and meditation was definitely one of them, besides other things as well. So when we're in that environment, I think at the end of the day, it's about being true and holding ourselves powerful. What is the best? What can we do when we are in our true essence? What are we really honestly capable of? And I honestly believe that every human being can do that, fulfill those things, but we have to be real within ourselves and real with the people around us as well. Um, Funnily enough, again, let me first of all touch on what David has nudged me on here. So I used journaling. Journaling helped me a great deal because when I had anxiety, it was like a whirlpool of thoughts, emotions, and I was introduced to journaling by a lady in South Africa, in Joburg, who I had gone to see as a therapist. And what I found brilliant about journaling is the thoughts and the excessive whirlpool of thoughts. I could siphon them off and put them on paper. And once I got them onto paper, my pen just flowed naturally, or I was typing, and that just gave me relief. And it helped me find the root cause of my anxiety. When I had anxiety, I knew that something was giving me anxiety, but it took a conscious effort to find what is it that's actually causing the anxiety. And that is where we come back to our values. It's something that we had touched on earlier. What drives us as an individual?
Excuse me, I want to ask you. You mind if I ask a quick question?
Of course.
How do you? Because I remember when I spotlighted you last year, and there was another person also that I spotlighted that was quite similar to you. How do you boldly step out and say, "This is what happened to me"? A lot of us we could tell people what has happened to us, in our past. But when you talk about the mental health, I think that's so powerful. And I just want to ask you, what really inspired you and gave you, I mean, seriously, the boldness to come forth and share with us? We appreciate it.
I think one of the I think it's coming back to authenticity. What are we really, what can we honestly acknowledge within ourselves to be able to share and pay it forward and help all other people who may be experiencing similar things. I think that was one of the main things, to pay it forward, that if I can do it, so can anybody else. I had, honestly, I think that's the bottom line. And I think the transformation, looking back at that person, it really was a completely very different person. And I think, yes, David journaling can give it is an excellent, and gives a different perspective, definitely.
Yes, it does.
I think it's,
yes.
I couldn't help, but I kept telling myself in the back of my mind, I am definitely made to do something more. I am definitely supposed to be doing something far, far bigger and better, and not just being a basic glorified accountant, I would say. Which, I am definitely meant for something more. And I think that's one of the main things. And being true, honestly acknowledging what you really are, can be capable of, if you give yourself that chance. So that's why I ask, what is it costing you? What is it that you dream of? Dream big. What is it that you can dream, that you really want to do, but you're holding yourself back because within fear. We haven't given ourselves a chance to understand ourselves. I think that's probably, I hope I've answered that question to the best of my ability, but I just want to quickly touch on, yes, meditation, journaling, I would say gratitude. Also, in order to have some kind of a mental fitness, mental stamina, to be able to consciously switch to a positive frame of mind, and making that a habit. And that's when the self-awareness comes in. And that is another thing, self-awareness itself. Having that third eye on yourself. What's triggering me? How am I acting here? What's really bugging me here? What's really coming up here?
Shaheda, I just want to mention or ask something, because what triggered is David saying. So I want to acknowledge what David is saying to you, that you're doing a real service by talking openly. But what I want to ask you, what shame was there with having anxiety? And did that hold you back before stepping boldly into courage? Was that holding you back for a long time? Because now there's no shame. That is why you are able to do what you're doing. Yeah. To share courageously. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, sure. Okay, first of all, thank you, David, again for nudging me, because you've reminded me that I did want to touch on this. Thank you, Aneesa, for the question. Because yes, we put on a mask. There is a sense of, unfortunately, if it comes back to culturally, societally, especially in my culture, my community, there is still a very big taboo about anxiety, depression. Unfortunately, even within corporations, it's an immediate, the first thing that may come up in somebody else's mind is it a sign of weakness? It may come up in other people's mind. We would want to put that mask on because we're thinking it is looking like a sign of weakness. But people are living in silence, suffering in silence with it. People don't want to talk about it openly. And coming back to some of the things that Aneesa was saying about the culture, making an environment within corporations, within companies, where it's okay to talk about these things. And that kind of thing, yes, it comes again back down to leadership and culture. It has to start from the best place is the top, because things are going to trickle down. Okay, so we have to continuously talk about it, I suppose, that to allow people to feel comfortable to start talking about it, making an environment within companies where it's okay to talk about these things, to be open and to be honest with ourselves. Looking back, it's very funny. I never thought I'd be like laughing or smiling about it. But when I look back, yes, it wasn't easy to talk about. I think that the easiest people to start talking about it openly is, of course, my husband, who was extremely, extremely supportive. I feel very, very blessed to have this man in my life. And I'll say that very, very openly. He's definitely the better half. He really is. That support structure is really, really important. And I say this for the people who are unfortunately suffering in silence, and we come back to the home environment and the people and the immediate people around the person who are also going to be affected. But if there's a support structure in place where a person can be open and honest and talk about it and be encouraged, be supported to go on that journey and discover themselves and understand why they're acting that way, why do we have these fears, where are they coming from, that is also something I feel that this is quite important. And if we can make that environment and that culture within corporations as well, I mean, then there's no limit, is there? Giving people a safe space in our employees to talk and be open and to openly talk about the challenges that they have in the workspace, to be holding ourselves respectfully accountable as well. Mm. And so that's where I find that definitely we're overlapping here. Wouldn't you say, Aneesa?
Yeah, definitely. It's creating the safety and feeling of I am not going to be judged. There's no shame that I have. There's almost like a support structure. The company might have a wellness and mental health and well-being space to go and share openly, and that there is that opportunity to go and talk about it without feeling like they're going to judge my work from here on out because I have a mental challenge that I'm challenged with. So I'd rather hide behind I don't have it and than to wallow in shame by sharing it openly.
So yeah, I mean, that the employee could have something so valuable to bring to the table, and yet, unfortunately, because of fear, they're holding themselves back. They're going to be in a space of, am I good enough? Am I good enough to say what I need to say? Is my suggestion worthy? Is somebody going to listen to me? Am I going to be taken seriously? I mean, there's a whole load of things that the person could be thinking to themselves. But if they're given a chance, if they're invited and given that space where there is no judgment, and we have leaders who are open-minded enough to bring in that culture, it would be, I mean, it would make unlimited potential. I feel unlimited potential for everybody. And funnily enough, the place where I'm working right now, it's a hospital, a very fast-growing hospital. We are bringing on staff every month, and just today, I've kicked off a group coaching session with the heads of departments that we have in the hospital. So I'm really, really happy, and these are exactly what my intentions are, to let them come up, like Aneesa said, as a whole person. We don't cut ourselves in half and leave the emotional part at home. When we come to work, we come as whole people, and that's what needs to be recognized. That's what human resources is, the human element of the HR aspect. Yeah.
Shaheda, girl, thank you. I mean, I'm so happy to hear how. I mean, you just saw, and I'm sure Aneesa saw this, and the audience can see it. You are so bold. I mean, with how you're talking about not only just yourself, but how being, getting more knowledge, more knowledgeable, and getting the support they can then empower themselves. And thank you, David, for your comments. I greatly, and everybody who's here today, we appreciate you. Thank you, for being here with us. And I'm gonna move on and talk about family and employee protection. And I want to start off, of course, family, because I don't care what you do, whether you're a business owner, if you work for a company, all of us are concerned about our families, correct? And I got to ask a question here. And audience, I would like for you, if you will, respond to this question. When you look at your protection for family, even if it's a life insurance policy, how often do you get the annual protections? Do you have somebody to take a look at your policy annually? That just I mean, put a thumb up or something saying, yes, I do, Marlene, or do you get that policy reviewed on an every 12 months on an annual basis? I'd like to hear from you. Just let me know if you do. I like everybody that's listening to this. Just respond and let me know. All right. And also, when we're talking about coverage, do you know what a revocable beneficiary is? Revocable? You guys know what revocable is? Okay. And again, that's another question I'd just like to hear your response to. Do you know what a revocable beneficiary is? And okay, and so I'm gonna talk about that and the irrevocable. And do you know what irrevocable beneficiary is? Now, in business, I have run across a client whose mother had a revocable beneficiary, which means that she's the owner of the policy, so she can change it anytime she gets ready to change it. She's got the upper hand. She's the owner. She's the one that it's written for, so she can change it at any time. Now, what happened with her was this. One of the family members actually is now, taking care of her care and taking care of her needs. They changed the beneficiary section to a irrevocable. An irrevocable, you don't want an irrevocable on your policies. Why? Because it takes the control away from you. So now that family member is now the only one who will receive the benefit of that policy, no matter what the owner feels, no matter what he or she says. Guys, remember that. And I know I've written about this. I'm going to attach it to this video, so if you need to read more about it, you can. But I wanted you to be sharp in that area. With most of it happens to seniors, but in your policies, always be sure that your section is revocable so that you can revoke. You can change it. I remember working with here locally. I was working with the utility company, and I handled their investments. And so I did a lot of meets with them. I was always at a meeting at least 3 or 4 times a week. I was at different locations, doing meetings for them. And this one I mentioned about the annual review, about reviewing. If you've been married more than once, make sure you change that beneficiary so that you can at least put your children on and get your ex-wife off of it or your ex-husband off of it. And guess what? This guy literally fell to the side out of his seat onto the floor. And I said, oh my God, I said, is my speaking gotten to be that horrible? He collapsed onto the floor. He said his coworkers, they were laughing at him. And so they knew. I said, what in the world's happening, guys? I mean, he's falling on the floor, balling all up in a knot. And he was actually fidgeting. And he said, oh my God, Miss Foster, what have you done to me? I said, what did I do? He said, Miss Foster, my life policy still has Susan's name on it. I say, Susan, the current wife or the ex-wife? She's my ex-wife. I said, you're in trouble, man. Okay. I said, seriously, you are seriously in trouble if you have her name. See what could happen, guys. If her name is there on that policy, what could she do now? Remember, I just spoke to you about irrevocable and revocable coverage, right, for beneficiaries. She could somehow get her hands on that policy. She now can change it to what? Irrevocable, couldn't she? So that means that if he remarried or whatever he did, the policy belonged to Susan, no matter what. There's nothing he could do unless he stopped paying the premiums. And guess what? She could pick up the premiums and pay them. We have to be, that's so important, guys, so important. Another level for protecting family I want to mention is the term policy that most of us know about. It expires, right? I agree, David. You do. You need flexibility. I agree. Flexibility is the key. You do, and that's why I'm talking about term right now. Term, guys, is inexpensive. So a lot of us, a lot of my clientele, ask for it because it's what? It's affordable. Affordability doesn't mean it's the best fit for you. The more expensive option might be the best fit. A universal life might be a better fit for you. But when you look at the term purchases, I wanted to bring this to attention today. Ask your professional, ask your representative if this is convertible. So, hey, I want to know if this term policy can ever be converted from term coverage to a permanent coverage. Ask them before you sign on the dotted line. Ask them. Make sure you know if you can do this or not. Because if you can't, if you're getting into a term policy, let's say if you get to a term policy and you become ill now, and now to get a permanent, to get a revision, a reversion done, reverted, you got to now show what your health status is. You need to really stay on top of your affairs. Seriously. Term, make sure you can convert it to permanent. Okay. Okay. And all of you know about the contestability part of the insurance policy. And that's, again, the 2-year period. That's the 2-year that if someone commits suicide or something of that nature, they won't pay within a 2-year period. They just won't be paid, guys. Okay. So remember, it won't. Suicide is just and I know in military may have a part in it as well, but I know suicide. And there are also policies out here. I've sat in a room with someone before, and I saw them write somebody a policy. They wrote a policy, and they didn't tell them that the policy was actually a guaranteed type of issue, which meant that the person was a diabetic or had heart failure. Anyway, they wrote them, but failed to tell them that the policy had to be enforced for 2 years. It didn't matter if it didn't have to be suicide, guys. If you died within a 2 years within some of these policies, you die within a 2-year period, they have to pay your beneficiaries the premiums you paid on the policy. Okay, guys, I'm just yes.
So if we had to bring this back to an employee environment, so we have employee contracts, right? So those contracts, let's just say there are layoffs at work. And I've experienced that where I had to go back and look at my work contract. What am I due in terms of severance pay? What can I claim from an employer when they make the decision to restructure and let me go? What am I entitled to? What are my rights? Can you talk to us a bit about that and how it works in your context, from where you live?
Now let me ask you this. You just mentioned you're not talking about life coverage. You're talking about
No. So I'm talking about, as an employer, being protected in the workplace. The company has to restructure and let you go. What are your rights as an employee? Because you have an employee contract. And in that contract,
yes.
If I have to let you go because we're restructuring, I'm going to give you 4 months salary, I'm going to give you X amount, or what can we negotiate? Because we're often blinded.
If you're in a contract, if you're in a contract with them, they're supposed to honor that contract, Aneesa. That should be honored. You see why a lot of times leadership does this. We don't fight for ourselves. I'm just being honest with you today. I'm being honest, guys. I've seen it many times because I have a legal background. It's funny that you asked that. I was in law school. My mother became ill. I had to take a sabbatical, guys, and I never went back. But today I write buy-sell agreements, and I'm very legally astute. So I know the legal side of things. And I'm telling you, these contracts they're supposed to honor that. They're supposed to honor your contract, or they're supposed to give you some type of an agreement or payment of some type where that you agreed to. You agree, not what they choose to give you, but you agreed to. No, then they can't get away with that. Not a contract. They're going to hold you to a contract, correct? What if you decided one day, invite you to come work with me in my business, and it's what you always wanted to do, and you go to them and say, I want out of that contract because I'm going to work with Marlene Foster because that's exactly what I've always wanted to do, blah, blah, blah. What do you think they're going to tell you?
You have
No,
a
you can't.
restraint trade.
No, that exactly. If you don't follow the contract, we'll sue you, right? They're going to tell you to sue you, aren't they? You have the same right. You have the same rights, but a lot of times, girl, we do not read and look at the fine print. We don't get an attorney to take a look at these contracts. I'm so glad you brought that up. We have got to be more open-minded with that. We've got to be open-minded and take that contract, get somebody to take a look at it, get somebody to do some interpretation for you and tell you what your rights are. Oh, that's an excellent question. Thank you for bringing that up. That's excellent. Now, I'm going to ask you today. I know all of you know what a Venn diagram is, so I'm asking you to do this. And you can even do it on the replay, or what you can do, if you don't have a sheet of paper where you can draw a Venn diagram, I want you to take your telephone that you might have and just write down for me right now, when you in a business, what do you look to receive? What are you looking for? How do you want to be recognized in a business? What would make you happy? In the Venn diagram on the left side, you're writing down, or if you don't have the Venn diagram, you're writing down what it is that at the top, say me, what it is that Marlene Foster would like to receive, from the employer. What is it? Something that you would like to be recognized for. I mean, and also, who do you want to recognize you? Do you want it to be peers, management, or leadership, or all of the above? Now, on that Venn diagram, this is what you're doing, guys, here, and I'm gonna tell you why you're doing this. So you go back and watch the replay. You'll go back over this with me. And also, if somebody's giving you recognition, is it genuine? Is this genuine feedback or genuine that they're showing you? Is it, or is it just them talking to you? Because people can talk, guys. You need to see action. Action, which means that they're putting you in. They're actually put. Like for instance, I've even had a company to do a competition. Get your employees to team them up, and let them cross train one another. Cross train, do a competition, and see after I don't know how many. If you want to do it for a week or 2 weeks or whatever you're doing, and see who wins, from that. Let them know that you're serious about this. And then the person who wins, you give some type of a bonus. Don't just give them a gift card. Give them a real bonus if they have to wait on it. If that a month has to pass where you give them a real bona fide bonus, give it to them. And then take that person and get them scheduled for a training, maybe that's a higher level, a higher managerial, even leadership training. Give them something, incentivize employees, incentivize them with some type of competition. I've used this before, guys, and it works. That actually does. You can put that. Now I'll ask you this. What if your gratitude that they would show you were placed in a newsletter, placed on a website, that kind of thing? What if they did that? Would that make you feel good? Would that be a good thank you for you? Just putting you out there to say, we really do honestly appreciate you.
Marlene, just to the point of, some of us are intrinsically motivated and others are extrinsically motivated. Yet, what's interestingly enough, I worked in the employee engagement and recognition industry. Sometimes it's not a tangible thing or monetary type of reward that is important. It's this most simplistic thank you, recognition, or acknowledgement. And what makes it better, to answer your question, must it be public? Must it be in a newsletter? Must it be on a platform where it's publicly shared for your peers to see that you're being recognized? It is very powerful. Because we are social beings and we want to be recognized and acknowledged. We want to feel heard, understood, and acknowledged. But when we are contributing meaningfully, some people that are intrinsically motivated might not need that, yes, thank you, I acknowledge you. And some people might not even like being publicly recognized. I had a lady in my team, she did not like to be publicly recognized. But we need to start understanding our people more meaningfully. We need to ask them, how might you feel worthy, accepted, appreciated, and recognized?
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, it's a one size fits all approach, and it doesn't always work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hey, and I agree. I was looking at David said humanity. I agree. I agree. I agree. I agree. Because see, Dave, you took the words right out of my mouth, and that's why I mentioned the Venn diagram. Because what you'll be doing is on the left side, writing down exactly what Aneesa was saying. What does it take for you to feel recognized? And then on the right side, and this is once you spend time with you. I'm not asking you to even think about the employer right now. This is exclusively about you right now. So as you sit down and you're writing on this Venn diagram, if you're writing, just writing it out right now, it's all about you. I'm talking about you right now. You. So you're writing about what makes you feel good. What could they do? As Aneesa was saying, not just something tangible, but is it some type of leadership training they could put in place? Is it something that they could do that would really empower you to move forward, within the company? That's what I'm talking. And then once you get by yourself and once you finish watching this, then do the other side. Think of what you feel leadership is doing right now. What are they doing now? And what are they doing that you feel that the two of you agree on? What is this something that you do see them doing that you feel good about? You said, I like that. They're doing all right with this. So I'm okay with it. I'm okay with that. So the Venn diagram will show the left side, you. How would you like to feel recognized? How would you like to feel acknowledged? What are some things that would really make you even more powerful here? Because when you think about peers recognizing one another, as well. Okay, that really empowers. Empowers you as a person, because the peers are saying that's so nice that this person could do that for me. And I mentioned very quickly about testimonials, guys, and that is the employer and employee testimonial. Employer being that the employer writes quarterly about, for instance, if Aneesa she's done something outstanding, and this person writes 4 or 5 lines and write a testimonial about her, and they do place it. They place it on the website, and they may just be just that proud of it, Aneesa, that they want to put you out there. The testimonial for customers to see. Customers in love and enjoy seeing how you boldly take care of employees. They love this. They love that. And another thing I want to tell you guys is this: community. Community is so important, guys. When it comes to protecting your business, I'm gonna tell you why. When you're looking at community, if you got a charitable cause or a nonprofit that you're supporting right now, you say, I love charity, Marlene, and my company does it somewhat, but they don't do it as much as I like to see them do it. Customers love to see you cherishing and promoting nonprofits and charitable causes. And I wanted to tell you that I actually am working with a few people. I know of a way that you can get grants for community. If you look into, and this is only in the United States for right now, guys, and that if you're looking to get a grant for a charitable cause or for a nonprofit that you're sponsoring, I can show you how to get funding for it. And if you're outside of the US, I have some other strategies in place. So I wanted to just end right here and just just bring back my fellow guests back here with me, because I am so excited, and just the content they brought here today is just indescribable. And listen, I want to thank you, Aneesa, for talking with us, on what you've spoken on, and that is inclusivity. It's important. I know what it feels like to be gagged. I mean, I literally feel gagged. Sitting at the table, barely able to breathe. I felt that way. And Shaheda, thank you, because without mental awareness, without a strong mental capacity, how can we do anything in life? We can't, can we? There's nothing we can do without that. And they said, take good care of your employees. Happy employees create excellent customer experiences. And that's obviously good for repeat business and customer reviews. Thank you, David. So true. Now, Aneesa, I wanted to just start with you. You want to just give us a recap of what you'd like to leave today with today's audience?
Yeah, what I think what's most important is that we all need to start learning to show up authentically. If we can drive authenticity in our environments and set the stage and the tone for that to be acceptable, we will diminish the silos that are currently existing within our environments. More saliently, I feel that if we connect people to the purpose and not make them feel that the values is just a wow factor on walls, which is, I call it the wow factor, it's words on walls. It needs to be demonstrated and embodied through the leaders showing up by actually living, breathing the values themselves. Comes back to what Shaheda said earlier on. How do we get leaders to set the tone so that others can feel that they can follow through and be inspired by their leaders?
Exactly. Exactly. And thank you for being here today. And Shahida, please give us just an overview about what you've spoken about. Thank you.
When you were touching, Marlene, on contracts and for people to honor contracts, and after that about employees, I think one of the easiest ways or questions that I could put forward to leaders and or top management is, how do you like to be treated? And and if you think about how you would like to be treated as a person, as a human being,
Yes.
we just need to flip it around, isn't it? When we're interacting when we're interacting with our teams, when we're interacting with the cleaners, the general workers, the ones that have the mops and the brooms, how would you like to, if you were that person, wouldn't you like to be treated the same way? Wouldn't they like to be treated the same way? I think that's really where the trust comes in. The trust comes in when we are honestly thinking about how the other person would like to be treated. What would they like to be acknowledged for? What space do they need to be given? What do they aspire as human beings? And these are the difficult questions that I invite leaders to inculcate, to positively grow the culture and the environment. So let it trickle down all the way down to the janitors and to the ones that have the brooms and the mops.
I love that,
And
Shaheda. I love that because it's let's it go of the titles. Let's lead without our titles. I love what you're saying there.
how would you like to be treated as a human being? A good morning is not going to kill you. How you doing is not going to kill you. Um, it's and that's again, like David said, the hate to the human resources. We're not human. It says human resources because we're dealing with human beings. We're not dealing with tools or equipment or staplers or hole punctures or stationery. We're not dealing with stationery. The station, we all have stationery lying around in our desks, but who are the people who are using that stationery? Who are the people who are typing the reports? Who are the people who are doing the statistics? Who are the people doing the grunt work that nobody really wants to do? Let's aspire to bring a positive culture, to bring a positive, trusting space within corporations, and let people feel human when they're at work, not when they're just at home. Let them feel human even when they're at work.
Thank you so very much, Shahida. Thank you, because I know we definitely need strong minds. All of us can attest to that. All of us, and I just want to say that protect your family. Yeah, just to, if you will, go back and when you review this, think about what I've told you to do on there with the Venn diagram audience. make sure that you are looking at how you want to be recognized. And exactly what Shaheda just said, what do you want? Look at that. And I want to throw another little bit in there that I didn't. And also, how do you also, you reach out and do the same. What you're asking employers to do, you do it. Employee testimonial gives your employer a testimonial of how you feel about how they're the good things they're doing. Let it be known. Let them know what they're doing right, okay? Let them know, guys. And so I just want to say thank you again, and thank you so much, David Hanson. I mean, thank you so very much, and thank you all of us, the guests who are here with us today. We appreciate you, and thank you for showing up and always continuing to learn. And see, that's David right there. Always wanting to learn, and David, the three of us are right along here with you. So thank you, Aneesa, and thank you so much, Shaheda. Thank you so much for being here as my guest. And everybody, please have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.